What if the moment you finally stop trying to control everything is the moment you begin to see what God has been doing all along? There comes a point in life when you realize that your strength cannot carry everything. You can plan carefully, work harder, prepare for every possibility, and still face situations you never expected. That is where trust becomes more than a Christian word. Trust becomes a decision to place your unfinished story into the hands of God. And when you genuinely trust Him, 5 unexpected things can begin to happen inside your life. The first thing is that you stop demanding immediate answers. You may still have questions, but you no longer believe every question needs an answer today. Abraham had to leave his homeland without knowing the entire destination. God gave him a promise before He gave him the full picture. Sometimes God does the same with you. He may tell you to keep walking before He explains where the road ends. That waiting period can feel uncomfortable because your mind wants certainty. But faith teaches your heart that God's silence is not the same as God's absence. The second thing that happens is that disappointment starts losing its power over you. Maybe someone walked away. Maybe an opportunity disappeared. Maybe a prayer seemed to receive the exact opposite answer from what you wanted. At first, you may wonder why God allowed it. But later, you may discover that what broke your heart was also protecting your future. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers and sold into slavery. Years later, he could look back and say that what people intended for evil, God used for good. That does not mean the pain was imaginary. It means the pain was not the final chapter. When you trust God, you stop judging your entire story by one painful page. The third thing that happens is that you become less desperate for people's approval. You stop changing yourself just to keep everyone comfortable. You stop chasing people who have already chosen to leave. You stop believing your worth depends on who notices you. Galatians 1 verse 10 asks whether we are living to please people or to please God. When God becomes the center of your life, human applause becomes smaller. You can be misunderstood and still remain peaceful. You can be rejected and still know you are loved. You can walk away from something popular because you know it is not what God has called you to do. That kind of confidence does not come from pride. It comes from knowing whose voice matters most. The fourth thing that happens is that you begin recognizing God's provision in ordinary places. Sometimes we expect God to provide through something dramatic. But provision can look like a conversation that comes at exactly the right moment. It can look like strength to survive one more difficult day. It can look like a closed door that saves you from a future you were not prepared for. It can even look like having enough grace for today when tomorrow still feels uncertain. Jesus taught His followers not to live consumed by tomorrow. He pointed them toward the birds of the air and the flowers of the field and reminded them that the Father knows what they need. Trust teaches you to notice what anxiety made invisible. You begin seeing that God has been faithful in ways you once overlooked. The fifth thing is the deepest. You become willing to obey God even when obedience costs you something. Anyone can say they trust God when everything is working. Real trust becomes visible when God's direction conflicts with your comfort. Noah built an ark before the rain came. Peter stepped out of the boat before he knew what would happen next. Mary accepted a calling that would completely change her life. Faith does not always feel safe. Sometimes faith means taking the next step while your emotions are still afraid. But obedience opens a different kind of life. You discover that God's presence is worth more than temporary comfort. You discover that following Him can take you through valleys without leaving you alone in them. Psalm 23 does not promise that you will never walk through a dark valley. It promises that you will not walk through it alone. So if your life feels uncertain right now, do not assume that God has forgotten you. Maybe He is teaching you to trust Him beyond what your eyes can prove. Maybe the delay is developing something in you that the answer alone could never develop. Maybe the closed door is redirecting you towards something you would have never chosen for yourself. And maybe the greatest miracle happening right now is not what God is changing around you. Maybe it is what He is changing within you. One day, you may look back at this season and realize that God was closer than you thought. The tears had a purpose. The waiting had a purpose. The unanswered questions had a purpose. And the moments when you thought you were losing everything may have been the moments when God was teaching you what could never be taken away. You do not have to know every detail of tomorrow to trust the one who already knows it. You only need enough faith to take the next step. So breathe. Pray. Release what you cannot control, and place your unfinished story back into the hands of the God who has never stopped working. If this message encouraged you, subscribe for more Christian messages that help you grow in faith, hope, and trust in God.